In the forgotten archives of the Wisconsin Diocese lies a collection of documents the Catholic Church has tried to bury for over 160 years. These papers detailed the systematic disappearance of 23 nuns from St. Mary's Convent near Lake Michigan between 1854 and 1862. Church officials dismissed the records as administrative errors, but testimony from 3 separate diocesan inspectors along with private correspondence recently discovered sealed inside. A wall during renovations tells a story so horrific that even hardened historians question whether such evil could exist within sacred walls. What follows is the first comprehensive account of what many consider the most disturbing case of religious corruption in American history, a case the Catholic Church has spent a fortune ensuring you'd never hear before. We continue. If you're already unsettled by this tale, subscribe for more historically accurate accounts of America's darkest religious secrets. Our community of mystery seekers spans all 50 states. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave a comment below. Now, let's return to the Wisconsin countryside of 1854, where our story begins. Morning fog hung heavy over Lake Michigan as Bishop William Corter's carriage rolled through the gates of what would become St. Mary's Convent. The Catholic Church had purchased the sprawling estate of former lumber baron's mansion, surrounded by 30 acres of dense woodland, with plans to establish the first major Catholic institution in the largely Protestant Wisconsin territory. This expansion was part of a broader push to solidify Catholic influence in America's frontier, where Protestant denominations were already gaining ground. The limestone mansion, with its 3 imposing wings and bell tower, stood in stark contrast to the humble wooden churches dotting the landscape. Built in 1842, the central structure featured Gothic arches and narrow windows that seemed to watch like eyes over the countryside. The east wing housed the nuns' quarters, while the west was intended for an orphanage and infirmary. Behind it all stood a small chapel, its spire visible for miles across the flat plains. Local Protestant families viewed the arriving nuns with suspicion. Their black habits and Irish accents marked them as outsiders in a community dominated by German and Scandinavian Lutherans and Methodists, who were accustomed to simpler, more democratic religious structures. The hierarchical, ritualistic nature of Catholicism felt foreign, even threatening. On the day of the convent's consecration, a small crowd gathered outside the gates. Papists, muttered Elijah Hoffman, an elder at the local Lutheran church, watching the black-robed figures process into the chapel. They'll bring their foreign ways, here corrupt our children with their idolatry. His companion, Wilhelm Schmidt, nodded grimly. My grandfather fled Germany to escape Catholic persecution. Now they follow us even here. This sentiment, though not universal, reflected the religious tensions that would form the backdrop of the coming tragedy. St. Mary's will serve as a beacon of God's mercy in this wilderness, Bishop Corter announced to the gathered clergy and dignitaries, his Boston accent echoing through the chapel. Under the guidance of Mother Superior Catherine Murphy, the convent would offer shelter to orphans, comfort to widows, and healing to the sick. Mother Catherine stood tall and imposing in her crisp black habit, her sharp gaze commanding instant respect. At 42, she carried herself with the confidence of a woman used to authority. Those who met her often remarked on her pale blue eyes, eyes that seemed to see through pretense. Sister Elizabeth, 38, with her perpetual smile and soft voice, would oversee the orphanage. Plump and maternal, she seemed perfectly suited to care for abandoned children. Sister Margaret, 35, tall and serious, would run the infirmary. Her knowledge of herbal remedies, impressing even physicians from Boston and New York. 20 younger nuns, most newly arrived from Ireland, completed the founding community. They stood in perfect formation, heads bowed. As Bishop Corter blessed each by name, Sister Agnes O'Connor, Sister Bernadette Walsh, Sister Teresa Donovan, young women who had left behind family and homeland to serve God in a strange new country. "The Lord has called us to this wilderness," Mother Catherine addressed them that first evening, candlelight casting long shadows across the refectory. "We will face hardships unknown in the East, suspicion from those who fear our faith, but we shall overcome through devotion and sacrifice." The young nuns clung to her words like a lifeline. "Do you think the locals will ever accept us?" Sister Agnes whispered to Sister Bernadette as they prepared for bed. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her brave front. Sister Bernadette squeezed her hand in the darkness. "They feared our Lord, too, at first. We must show them through our works that we mean only good." The whispered conversation ended abruptly at the sound of footsteps in the corridor, Mother Catherine making her rounds. The convent quickly established itself as a functioning religious community. The daily rhythm of prayers began with at 3 a.m., the bells cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. Latin chants filled the chapel 7 times a day, becoming as much a part of the landscape as the wind through the pines dot between prayers. The nuns ran the orphanage, tended the infirmary, and maintained vegetable gardens. By winter 1854, the orphanage housed 12 children, mostly orphans of Irish immigrant laborers. Sister Elizabeth oversaw their care with apparent tenderness. Sister Margaret's infirmary gained respect among locals, especially during harsh Wisconsin winters when doctors were hard to reach. Even skeptical neighbors like Elijah Hoffman admitted grudgingly, "They keep to themselves, but they do good work." Sister Agnes's letters home to Ireland, preserved in the Dublin Diocesan archives, offer a rare glimpse into the convent's early days. "The work is harder than I imagined," she wrote in December 1854, her handwriting smudged as if by tears. "My hands are raw from washing linens in ice-cold water, and the chapel stones feel like ice beneath our knees. But Mother Catherine says our sacrifices please God." She praised Sister Elizabeth's kindness and Sister Margaret's remedies, which had saved children during a fever outbreak. "I believe we are doing God's work, though I still cry myself to sleep some nights, missing home. But these letters don't reveal the subtle changes already taking place." Mother Catherine's leadership, initially strict, grew increasingly autocratic. Minor infractions once met with gentle correction now brought severe penances. Sister Josephine Brady, who coughed during silent prayer, was made to kneel on dried peas while reciting the Rosaria punishment that left her knees bleeding. "Discipline is the cornerstone of devotion," Mother Catherine reminded them, her voice cutting through the quiet workroom. By spring 1855, St. Mary's had gained a reputation for charity. When measles swept through lumber camps, Sister Margaret treated dozens, earning donations from grateful families. But inside those limestone walls, life was changing. Communal meals grew silent. Recreation hours turned tense. The nuns moved like shadows, careful not to draw attention. Then came the first disappearance. Sister Agnes failed to appear for morning prayers. "Sister Agnes has been called to assist at our mission in Minnesota," Mother Catherine announced at breakfast, her tone brooking no questions. But Sister Bernadette's spoon clattered against her bowl. "Mother, she said nothing to me." "Are you suggesting," Mother Catherine interrupted, her pale eyes fixed on Sister Bernadette, "that a bride of Christ needs permission from her fellows before answering God's call?" No one dared question further. Sister Agnes's few possessions were gone, but her cloak still hung on its peg. Would she have left without it in April in Minnesota? 3 months later, Sister Bernadette vanished. The bishop requested her assistance. "In Chicago," Mother Catherine explained. Again, no farewell, no warning, just an empty cell. By winter 1855, 3 more nuns had transferred to distant missions, always the youngest, the prettiest. Letters from families to these supposed new postings returned months later with brief, oddly formal replies, all written in the same hand. Sister Teresa Donovan one of the few who dared voice concerns, whispered to Sister Mary Collins, in the garden, "It's always the youngest and prettiest who disappear. First Agnes with her golden hair, then Bernadette with her lovely voice." She trailed off as Sister Margaret's shadow fell across the garden. A week later, Sister Teresa was gone, called to a contemplative retreat in Montreal. That evening, Sister Mary found a note tucked beneath her pillow, a torn page from Sister Teresa's prayer book. "Something is wrong. If I disappear, tell Father Ryan." By 1857, only 12 of the original 20 junior nuns remained. Fear was a tangible presence. Mother Catherine's rule grew harsher. Minor infractions brought days of fasting, nights spent praying on cold stone floors. Sister Claire, caught with a piece of chocolate from her family, was forced to confess to gluttony and deception, unworthy of a bride of Christ. She fasted for 3 days, fainting during prayers on the 2nd. Sister Margaret revived her with smelling salts, her thin lips curving in what some later called a smile. One freezing night in January 1858, Sister Mary awoke to muffled sobs from the next cell, then Mother Catherine's sharp whisper, "You will come with us now. Make any noise, and you'll regret it." Shuffling feet. Silence. Then a muffled cry cut short and the sound of a body being dragged. The next morning, Sister Rebecca had been called to a frontier mission. Later, while sweeping near Mother Catherine's office, Sister Mary overheard a chilling conversation. "The doctor says this one will fetch a higher price," Sister Elizabeth said, her voice cold. "Men pay extra for the innocent ones. We need to be more careful," Sister Margaret replied. 3 in 1 month raises questions. Mother Catherine laughed. "Another donation to the bishop's cathedral fund, and his questions will disappear." Then, most terrifying of all, "What about the Collins girl?" Sister Margaret asked. "She watches too closely." A pause. Then Mother Catherine's reply, "We'll wait. She's too plain to fetch much." Sister Mary fled before she could be caught. The pieces fell into place. The missing nuns, the well-dressed benefactors who toured the convent, the unexplained sounds from the locked north wing at night. She made a desperate decision. While collecting eggs the only time she left the convent unsupervised, she slipped a note into the pocket of Jimmy Fletcher, the milkman's son. "Something evil happens at St. Mary's. Nuns are disappearing, not sent away as claimed. I fear for my life. Please send help." Sister Mary Collins, Jimmy delivered it to Father Thomas Ryan at St. Joseph's Church. Father Ryan, who had long harbored doubts about Mother Catherine, took the note to Bishop Henney in Milwaukee. The bishop dismissed his concerns. "Mother Catherine has been most generous to our cathedral fund," but Father Ryan refused to let it go. He returned to St. Mary's, under the guise of collecting financial reports. The convent was eerily quiet. Only 8 nuns remained. "Sister Mary has been assigned to our mission in St. Louis," Sister Elizabeth told him, her smile strained. Exploring the chapel, Father Ryan slipped into the residential wing. At the end of a corridor, a locked door, a faint voice from within, "Father, please help us." Then Mother Catherine's voice behind him, "This area is cloistered. Father, your presence is inappropriate." Flanked by Sister Margaret and a burly stranger, Mr. Callahan, she ordered him out. Father Ryan fled, sending an urgent telegram to Archbishop Hughes in New York. Archbishop Hughes dispatched Monsignor Patrick Kelly for a surprise inspection. What they uncovered was beyond imagination. The locked room held 5 imprisoned, nuns starved, abused. Sister Josephine, pregnant. Sister Rebecca, skeletal, whispered, "They prepare us for the doctor, for the house in Chicago. Men pay more for nuns for brides of Christ." Sister Margaret's quarters contained laudanum, chloroform, and a journal detailing treatments. Financial records showed coded entries. Package delivered to Chicago establishment. Condition excellent. The orphanage housed only 7 thin children. The infirmary stood nearly empty, and beneath the vegetable garden, Unmarked graves. Mother Catherine, Sister Elizabeth, and Sister Margaret were not true nuns but the real Mother Catherine Murphy had been poisoned upon arrival. The operation extended far beyond. Wisconsin nuns sold 2 brothels, orphaned girls, adopted into servitude. Those who resisted were killed. Mother Catherine and Sister Margaret escaped, vanishing into history. Sister Elizabeth, left behind, descended into catatonia. The church buried the scandal. The convent was demolished. Survivors were silenced. But the story refused to die. In 1912, 2 mummified women were found in a Veracruz mansion, along with a golden locket bearing St. Mary's image. A journal entry read, "He comes tonight. We have failed him for the last time." Who was he? A patron? A darker force? The truth remains fragmented, buried under layers of institutional secrecy. But on quiet nights near Lake Michigan, some say you can still hear faint voices, prayers, or cries for help, carried on the wind. Remember them. Remember Sister Agnes, Sister Bernadette, Sister Teresa. Remember that they lived, that they suffered, and that their suffering mattered.